Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today I have a special recipe for you. It is a vanilla cake recipe that requires no eggs and no dairy. This recipe has a couple different names. Vanilla depression cake or wacky cake is what my grandmother used to call it, and she made this when she didn't have much in her pantry. So I'll walk you through the ingredients. To get started, you're going to need some vegetable oil to grease your cake pans. And then the ingredients for the cake batter are flour, sugar, vegetable oil, white vinegar, salt, baking soda, vanilla, and water, and that is it. So whether you don't have eggs or dairy in your refrigerator or you just want to reserve them for another time, this recipe is perfect. You're going to need 2 9-inch cake pans, and like I said, you're going to want to grease them. And I was lucky enough to have a container of whipped white frosting in my pantry, but I will link 2 really easy, simple frosting recipes below. So you want to get started by preheating your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And to put this cake batter together, it could not be easier. I started with my flour and whisked through it so there were no lumps, and I added my granulated sugar, and I just whisked these 2 together. Next, I'm adding baking soda and some salt. And that is it for your dry ingredients, so just whisk this to make sure these are incorporated really well. Next, we're going to add our wet ingredients, and you can add them right to your large bowl. No need to dirty a separate bowl. It's one of my favorite parts of this recipe. So I'm adding vegetable oil. I'm also adding white vinegar. I'm adding vanilla. And last but not least, water. Then with your whisk, you just want to whisk to combine. This is one of those batters you want to mix just until your ingredients are combined. Don't overmix it because it will make for a tough cake. I remember making this cake with my grandmother when I was little, when she didn't have eggs or she didn't have milk, and she would tell me stories of her childhood as we baked together. So this brought back a lot of really good memories. Once the batter was all mixed, I set it to the side and I got my cake pans. This is a really important step. You want to make sure that you grease your cake pans really well. If you have Crisco, if you have a nonstick spray like I do here, as long as you grease them, they will be fine. You could even use butter if you have that on hand. And we're just going to divide the batter up equally between these 2 pans. I don't know about you guys, but this is always a guessing game for me. So I just do my best, cross my fingers, and hope I get it as equal as possible. Once your batter is in your pans, wrap them on your counter to get rid of any air bubbles, and then we're going to bake them at 375 for 30 to 35 minutes. This is what they looked like when they came out of the oven, and they smelled so delicious. So I just used a cake tester to make sure it came out clean. I really like this batter because it has a crispy outside. So I let these cool completely. You want your cakes to be cool to the touch so that your frosting doesn't melt off. And this is a little trick I'm sure you guys have seen before, but I put either wax paper or parchment paper on my cake stand in strips so that you can frost and not make an entire disaster of your cake stand. So I put my bottom layer on first, and with a serrated knife, I'm cutting off the extra part of the dome of the cake. This does not need to be perfect. It's going to be hidden in between the two layers. So just let the knife do the work and take off just a little bit. You could get creative with this, and you could add a jam on the inside of this. You could add Nutella, whatever you have on hand. When I was thinking of recipes to share with you guys for this upcoming weekend, I was thinking, what symbolizes a celebration, whether you celebrate Easter or not? I think everybody could use a little cake nowadays. I think people are getting a little stir crazy from being inside, and cake just says celebration to me. So a good friend here on YouTube had suggested depression recipes, and instantly a light bulb went off in my head. My grandmother used to make these recipes with me all the time and tell me all these stories of her childhood, how they made food stretch and made these wacky cake recipes. And I went to find it, and I did not have it written down. So I do have the recipe linked below. It is to a lovely website, and this is very close to the recipe I used to make with my grandmother. So here I am just frosting the cake. You can use canned frosting. You could leave this cake plain if you wanted. You could do melted chocolate. And then, like I said, I will link 2 pretty simple, minimal ingredient recipes in the description box below. I know that most people during this pandemic are doing the right thing and trying to stay home as much as possible and minimizing grocery shopping trips, which in turn means running low or running out of things like eggs and milk. So I figured this recipe would be perfect. You can still have a fun celebratory cake. And if you guys are doing a fun dinner for Easter, let me know in the comments below what you guys are doing. We're doing a very low-key ham dinner with mashed potatoes, carrots, and this lovely cake. I was originally going to leave this cake bare. We don't have any Easter decorations, and I didn't think to put it on the grocery list last time we went. So I got a little creative, and I had a few flowers. So if you have some flowers out in your yard, go pick a couple. What could be more perfect for a spring Easter cake than a couple fresh flowers? So I just popped those on the top. This was really simple. And then you just want to pull your parchment or wax paper out. If you need a little help, just kind of wedge a knife in there, and this leaves a nice clean edge on your serving platter. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this depression vanilla cake recipe, or wacky cake as my grandmother used to call it, and hopefully give you an inspiration to make something fun for this coming weekend. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you guys leave me a comment below. I love to hear from you. And make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. I have lots more fun recipes coming soon.